Hi everyone, it's Eli. You know how sometimes you stumble upon something truly game-changing in healthcare? Well, I found it. KinetiSense. This cutting-edge motion capture technology is transforming movement, assessment, and recovery. Imagine getting instant AI-driven insights without any wearables on your patient. That's right, no ping pong balls needed. Just pure, accurate data. Perfect for boosting athletic performance, pinpointing imbalances, and refining rehab. Top professionals worldwide trust KinetiSense to maximize productivity and results. Check out our partner page to learn more. Experience the revolution in movement. Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More, the podcast that gives you a viewpoint in sports medicine that can't be found anywhere else. I'm your host, Eli Halleck, and we have a fantastic show ahead of us today. So, let's get started. Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. Today in our podcast, we have El Presidente with us. What I mean by that is we have a fantastic individual who is president of the Industrial Athletic Trainers Society, not association, I'll screw that up, I'm sure, and the owner of Work Factor Health, where she focuses on ergonomic design and other aspects of healthcare for people in the industry. And with that in mind, we'd like to welcome Susan Ta. How you doing today, Susan?
I'm doing great, Eli. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's not often we get a president, so kind of exciting.
More presidents on the podcast, right?
That's what I'm saying. More presidents, less beheading. Wait, no, that's a movie. Sorry. I'm a Disney fan, so I like Alice in Wonderland. Anyway, nice to meet you. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, gearing up for a holiday weekend ahead. So it's the end of Q1, the beginning of Q2. We're ready to be better and different over the next 3 months, aren't we?
God, yes, I agree, and I hope. I hope for 3 better months coming up. That's for sure. No doubt about it. Let's talk about what you do. I mean, this is kind of cool. Tell us a little bit about, let's start with how you got in the industry
Yes.
and what kind of took you down your career path so everybody can hear it because it's a very intriguing and unique pathway you took.
I have actually always been industrial as a certified AT. And I know there's a few of us, but it's not very common, right? Most people transition in.
Not at
But
all. That's so uncommon. It's kind of cool.
yeah, so I kind of gained my industrial chops during my AT program. So I'm a bachelor's AT, Radford University, go Highlanders. And during my AT program, I actually was the president of our AT Student Association. There's a theme here. Are you sensing
I'm
the
seeing something here. I'm seeing something.
And so while I was the president of our student association, we were actually able to build a relationship with our local Volvo plant. And they would have this big health fair every year. And they actually now have athletic trainers on staff. They did not at that time. But the strength and conditioning coach, who kind of did a lot of their kind of wellness stuff, invited us out to talk to these workers about, chronic MSKs and stuff like that. So here I find myself a junior in college talking to these very kind, hardworking people about, tennis elbow and carpal tunnel and plantar fasciitis and low back pain. And they're like, yeah, that sounds exactly like the pain I've been dealing with. Oh my goodness. And they're so grateful. And I'm like, who are these people? They're so nice. They don't throw socks at my head. They say
They're not
thank you.
throwing water bottles around.
Yes. I'm like, "Oh, I feel so appreciated. I kind of love this." And so we went back my senior year as well. And I was like, yeah, I like this industrial thing. And so after I graduated, I was applying to jobs and I kind of had some standards around how many hours I had to work and how much I had to make, which, that was going to cut out a lot of a lot of opportunities alone right
Of course.
there. So And so industrial came knocking, and I started as a certified AT at a tire and rubber manufacturing facility in Arkansas, believe it or not. That was my first gig as a certified AT.
Wow, that's kind of cool. That's the first we've heard of a tire industry. So, so they just made tires.
Yep, they make the rubber for the tires, and then they make the tires, the whole thing, straight from like raw ingredients to fully complete tire. And I can tell you exactly how a tire is made. I can inspect your tire. I can tell you where your tire was built, what year it was made. So if those are things you find valuable, that's why any of my friends who have like a leak or something like that, or they damage their tire, I'm like, oh yeah, they're not gonna be able to repair that. Or yeah, that's good. They'll plug it in. You're good to go.
Wow, that's kind of cool. That's very unique. Just like we
Yeah.
said, what a unique opportunity. I
Mhm.
just wow. Wow, very cool. Now,
Yeah.
does that employer still employ athletic trainers then?
Ooh, this is a good question. So they still employ athletic trainers. The company when I worked for them were a family owned company, and they got bought out by a big, oh, was it Goodyear Discovery? One of the big guys bought them out actually. And so that changed a lot of things with them. But at least one of their plants that I know that is still open, they do still have ATs out there. So
Very cool. So now I can start telling my assistants, "Hey guys, you got to inspect the tires." It's a industry standard now.
yes, it's part of your competencies now.
There we go. There we go. It's part of the competencies. Uh-oh, don't say that too loud. They might jump on that one. Oh, from the tire manufacturing company, where'd you jump to from there?
So from there, I jumped to a beer distributor. I know, I
Now
just
we're talking. All right. This sounds more like healthcare. Here we go.
Yes. So during, peak COVID, my boss at the time was like, "Hey, do you want to help deliver beer on the beach in Florida?" And I was like, "Yes." And so she helped me because we had an opening happening at that client, and she helped me get that role. And I joined a team in Fort Myers, Florida, and there we, delivered beer, and it was peak COVID. So it was insane. Already I was in Florida, so it was insane. But it was COVID, and so no one had anything to do but drink alcohol. So we were a very busy place. And yeah, I spent a couple years there, learned a lot there as well. And that's definitely one of the funner gigs. And yes, we do get free beer. So it was a good time.
Now, if you would have said bourbon distillery, I'd be in. But that's a good runner-up. I like that.
That's fair. Yeah. So it was a
Yeah.
good runner up. And so I spent some time there. And that was actually where I first got a bit of safety experience. So they had actually pulled me into their health and safety admin role for our whole Southwest Florida group. So I did that for a while. And then I popped back into industrial AT in construction. So spent the better part of the last 3.5 years on the construction side of things, which has been a phenomenal experience. I mean, talk about learning and growth and a way to apply a lot of the AT skill set. I think construction is a great place for that. And then after that, I tiered off into opening my own consultancy and being able to work with more of the mid-sized companies who have kind of had a hard time getting AT services, right? Because some companies just don't have the funds for a full time, or they don't really understand what it is that they need. And being in San Antonio, Texas, so that's where I'm based out of, you really see a labor market that deserves more. I mean, all the things you can think of when it comes to social determinants of health are here, and the jobs are very physical here. So we have a lot of trade work, we have a lot of manufacturing here. So a lot of those jobs that are very physically demanding, we have a lot of ex-military here. We have a lot of immigrant workers here. So it really is an area that benefits from the AT skill set, right? And so it was a great opportunity for me to be able to focus in helping the people I care about.
You alluded to the consulting gig and
Yeah.
how you're able to really make a difference in that mid-tier
Mhm.
group. And with that, you have kind of your eye and have specialized in a couple specific areas.
Yes.
Please,
Yes.
let's talk about those. Those are near and dear to my heart because I remember when I broke into the industry, I was working at a clinic and a hospital, and we had some specialists in ergonomics. So I learned a lot way back then. I didn't know what the hell it was, but wow, it was cool to learn about. So please, let's talk about that.
Definitely. So, like a lot of the bachelor's trained ATs, right? We kind of had this opportunity to choose where we specialized. So, I'm sure it's no surprise that my master's is in engineering, and I chose it because I'm an industrial AT, and that's just more helpful for me. And so I got my master's in advanced safety engineering and management, and specifically, my capstone was focused around human factors and ergonomics. Even to tear that down more, my study was on biomechanical approaches to prevention through design. So looking at designing out ergonomic risk in a very specific area of work. But that is really my true focus. I think because of my time in manufacturing, you really get to see how you can change a process to better fit the person doing that work, right? So that's one thing industrial has that you won't typically see in a lot of the other settings, whether it's police, whether it's, performing arts, traditional sports. You typically don't get to rewrite the rules to make the job easier for the person doing it. They're just
God,
like,
I
this is
wish
how
we
we
could
play
rewrite
basketball.
some rules. Oh, yeah, that would be fantastic.
Right. I mean, we do have some advances, of course, with like concussions and making certain hits illegal and stuff like that, of course, to protect people. But industrial is very unique in that sometimes you can add tools, build tools, redesign this work so that people legitimately get hurt less, or they're able to do the job faster, or they're able to do the job longer, or they need less recovery to do the job. And it takes a very intimate understanding of the human body, recovery, fatigue, right? And how repetition affects certain muscle groups versus others, sustained postures. It takes a lot of that knowledge that a lot of ATs already have. And then really understanding the industrial engineering side and that industrial system to then see, oh, what parts of this method can I manipulate? This material, can we change it? Can we add tools here and things like that to make it a cooler job?
That's so neat and unique in that you can really jump in and make such a huge difference in such a short amount of time.
Mhm.
Um, Now, one thing I haven't heard yet, and that's always four initials that every athletic trainer that works in the industrial setting not afraid of, but oh, when they get involved, it's like, oh, what do we do now?
Mhm.
And we all know it, OSHA,
Yeah.
and that is always when you first come out of well, when you first come out with your master's degree now, I'd say
Mhm.
bachelor's because I'm old, and you start in the industry and you hear OSHA, you're like, we're going to the ocean, we're going surfing, what are we doing? And then you learn what OSHA is and how
Mhm.
important they are in the industry. Um, Interactions with what you do,
Yes.
um, how as a new grad back in the day, were
Mhm.
you introduced to OSHA? If we could explain it to that new grad listening to this podcast
Oh,
and
okay.
how to interact with OSHA, to give them a little advice, because you and I both know, oh, here we go again.
So I'm gonna be a little controversial here.
Uh-oh, here we go. I love it.
Oh, it's begun. We didn't even make it like 5 minutes in. No. I'm gonna be a little controversial because I think that people associate OSHA with a lot of negativity. I do not. I like OSHA.
Well,
I love OSHA
they're protecting our patients, which is a good
for
thing.
sure. And well, and truly, they barely protect them, honestly. Like, if OSHA is the standard at your place of work, I weep for you because it's truly the bare minimum. Like, that is OSHA standards will barely keep you alive. Like, I really hope a
Gotcha.
lot of employers are going above and beyond with that stuff. But I actually like OSHA in the sense that, so the biggest thing, especially with new grads and when they hear about it or new people introduced to a place that falls under OSHA, which most everyone falls under OSHA to some degree. More people fall under OSHA than they think. Professional athletes fall under OSHA. That's work. They're at work.
Schools, high
Yes.
schools. I mean, you're working, it's OSHA
Yep.
related.
Exactly. So anyone can file an OSHA complaint in most places that ATs work at. ATs can file OSHA complaints if you are working in an unsafe environment. Typically, when we hear about OSHA, we hear about it in the sense of the infamous OSHA recordable, right? And this doesn't just belong to athletic training. This applies to anyone working in occupational health, physicians, nurses, PTs, OTs. It doesn't matter who you are. OSHA is OSHA, and what is classified as medical care beyond first aid or first aid medical care is the same for everybody. So that's why even your Ahmed doctors who work for industrial corporations, they're typically going to try and look and keep a lot of the cases that they see, if it makes sense medically, under that OSHA recordability barrier, right? Because that is what the employers are looking for. Is we do not want to look like a terrible employer, so we don't want unnecessary things getting more health or medical care than they need. So that's typically what new people to industry are going to learn. You're going to learn what is considered first aid, and that's going to be that ice, massage, active release techniques, because ART lobbied a lot of money to get themselves considered first aid treatment and not medical treatment somehow. But rehabilitation is medical treatment beyond first aid, but ART is not. Don't ask me how they got there, but they did.
Good
Um,
lobbying. Good lobbying. There we
Good
go.
lobbying, exactly, exactly. And so you're going to kind of learn those categories. And a big thing I hear from people in the industry, especially on the MSK side of things, is they're like, oh, OSHA is way too strict with what is considered medical care beyond first aid. And they should loosen it up so that we can do more for these workers. And I am fully in the other camp. First thing I think is OSHA, if anything, would make it tighter. They know they're not seeing 75% of the injuries that are happening. They are not confused. They know injuries are underreported, especially now that you have people who are able to create workplaces and develop programs that do a much better job at keeping injuries under that line, right? And you can actually tell because last year OSHA had come out with a memorandum basically saying if you are treating someone as first aid, so beneath that line for an extended period of time, we are suspicious.
Oh,
And that was,
wow. Flat out,
yeah,
huh?
so OSHA basically came out and said, we are aware that you guys are very good at keeping injuries under the reportability level. But this means for OSHA, just a little background for them, OSHA's job of what was recordable or not is they want to know what injuries are happening and how many injuries are happening, right? And what industries look like and what industries are more dangerous and so on. So, of course, they couldn't make employers report every paper cut. And they didn't want all that data anyway. So they said, okay, this is what you have to tell us about. We feel this will give us a really good picture of what is going on in American workplaces, and we can then see where we need to intercede or not. So naturally, as Ahmed and doctors and nurses and everyone's gotten good at first aid, OSHA's like, where are our numbers going? They're
The
like, what's
data has shifted too much. They're like, wait a minute, what happened to our
right?
threshold?
And you're seeing a lot of injury rates go down in general in certain industries or really plateau or stay the same, but not necessarily that less people are getting hurt. It's just that things are less recordable. So that's where OSHA kind of came out and said, you know, they're going to start inspecting and asking workers if an injury is being treated as first aid for 2 weeks, for example. They want to see that worker, the OSHA inspector, and they're going to ask them, have you been offered medical care beyond first aid? They want to know if it was offered to this employer, or if the employer was like, nope, we're just keeping you here. We're not sending you, to get further care because they don't want to have to record it, right? They're going to ask the employee if they ever felt at any point in time that they were not able to get additional care. They're going to ask the worker, do you want more care than this? Do you feel like you're being adequately taken care of? So OSHA is saying you guys are hiding them well, but we're not falling for it. And we want we want to hear about more injuries, and we know we're not hearing about enough of them. So every time people bring up, we need to lobby OSHA to change the reportability, I'm like, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Leave that thing alone. It's good
Keep
where it
that
is.
monster canned. Don't open
Exactly.
that can of worms. Yep,
Pandora's
I hear
box.
you. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
At minimum, Pandora. It could be even worse. You
Exactly. So
release the
that's my
Kraken. Yep, got it.
piece.
That makes sense. Total
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. So I'm on, I'll be honest, I'm on the IATS, Industrial
Mhm.
Athletic Trainer Society website.
Mhm.
And I knew some of the industries, and whoa, there you are. Great picture, by the way, on there.
Thank
And
you.
looks like a fantastic group you're working with in
Yeah.
on the society. But wow, talk about some industrial titans that have really bought in
Mhm.
to athletic training.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean some of the names coming across: Delta, Toyota,
Mhm.
Amazon. Shout out to my buddy over there. We interviewed not too long ago.
Yes.
American Airlines, FedEx, tool companies,
Mhm.
um, Procter and Gamble. I mean, Lilly. So the
Yep.
medical company. We're
Yes.
talking
All of them.
huge industrial corporations that make the world, not just the U.S. or our state, run. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm looking at Tesla and Boeing right now.
Yep.
The fact that athletic trainers are in these industries and making an impact and indirectly making an impact in the world is just wow compared to when I came out from my program 35 years ago or whatever. Just, ooh, King's Hawaiian. Now we're talking. I love that one.
I think Hershey's too, if I remember right.
Oh,
Hershey's.
God bless them. Yes. Oh, Hershey. I didn't see that one, but oh boy, now we're talking. But there it is. What an impact we can make
Yeah.
in being athletic trainers that we never would have thought of going back 30, 40 years ago. Um, just, and that speaks to our skill set and what we're able to do and what we're taught and how
Mhm.
we're able to perform because a big part of it is not just our skill set but our personality.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
if you could talk to maybe those students that want to get
Mhm.
in the industrial setting and
Yeah.
how important it is to have the right mindset and right interaction skills. What would you say to those uh,
Man,
individuals?
that goes so many places.
It does. I'm good at that. Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna start with just even a bit of what you said about how many lives industrial touches. I think it's something that's great for not just the workers in this country. I mean, these jobs are very physical, and any of the ATs at any of these companies you're seeing know that. But also, on the other side of this, is what it means for our profession, right? Boeing hires probably about as many ATs as the NFL does, right? They have about 150 ATs that
Holy
are
moly.
their staff. Yeah. So I'm thinking of how many NFL teams we have. So they're probably like between 150 and 170 ATs over there. But think about how many people are ATs and get to work with a company and with a patient population that's a little bit different, but has doubled that impact, right? Compared to like what one of the most high status roles you can have in this setting. So
Totally.
what does that mean for the growth of our profession? And speaking specifically to AT students or people who are even considering going into athletic training as their masters, right? I think there was a time when you went into athletic training because you wanted to work, with athletes, or you wanted to work in a certain sport or sideline, yes, or courtside or in the dugout.
That was it. That's what you strive for.
That's why you're here. But there's gonna be also now this opportunity for people who are like, I really like holistic proactive care, which is what ATs are good at. That is why so many employers and so many industries have signed on to AT. That's why they can clearly delineate the difference between us and almost every other healthcare provider, which is reactive. To some degree, you have to go find whether you want a PT, whether you want a nurse, whether you need an EMT. Odds are you are engaging them as I need you. They're not just sitting on the bench at your practice, right?
Well
But your
said.
AT is. So that is why all these employers are like, we see this value. And you're going to see people who say, I like proactive care. I like holistic care. I like knowing my patients when they're healthy and when they're injured, not just when they're injured, which is really what the majority of healthcare providers deal with. But we see our people when they're perfectly fine and there's nothing wrong with them in, for all intensive purposes. There's usually something going on, but they're relatively healthy. So they're going to be people saying, I want that. I want to deliver MSK care. I want to deliver, wellness and risk reduction and all these things. But I don't really like sports all that much. I kind of really like different environments, and they're going to see AT as a job for them because of what industrial has been able to bring to this profession, which is a whole wide world for thousands and thousands and thousands of providers to be able to care for these unique populations. I have workers all the time who, I'll be taking care of them and they're like, how do I get your job? And actually, when I was at the tire plant before I left, we had an AT come in who he was a carpenter, went back to school in his 30s for his master's of AT, and now he's an industrial AT. And I'm like, it's making sense. All the athletes who became ATs to work in sports, let's get all the tradespeople to go back to school and get their master's in AT and
Not
work.
a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
You understand exactly what a carpenter is going through and you know how to help them and take care of them. And so that means a lot for the growth of this profession, that is an avenue of people that we can bring in and have them bring their knowledge and experience and apply the AT model on top of it. And what makes the AT model great, again, kind of along your question of what are the skills and what are, some of the implicit things that you can do. The AT model is, to me, true community healthcare. It's population specific. So you have a very innate knowledge of what applies to your high school baseball team. That is a narrow age group. They do specific things. They have a lot of, things in common as far as goals, life history, things like that. While industrial is a little bit more diverse, you still can create a similar epidemiological kind of profile about your people, right? So in construction, for example, machismo culture, a lot of travel and contract-based work. So there's kind of this stress when a job is manning down that people are getting laid off, right? Because at its peak, this job needed 600 people, but at the end of a job, there's like 30 people working that job. So the question is, where are these guys going to go? Do they have somewhere else to work? And you kind of see that stress come into the workplace. You have this implicit knowledge of your community, what matters to them, what are their values, what issues do they face, and you get to weave all of that into your healthcare and how you take care of these people. So that is my biggest advice to maybe students or people who are making their way through their AT journey to come out the other side and take care of people. You have to care about the community that you're embedded in. Every bit of it, from what mentally is going on with them, financially is going on with them, right? I know one of our projects, one of our teams brought in banks and realtors because these guys work construction. They don't have time to go shop for a house. And so they're not buying a house because they don't have time to go do it. And their wife doesn't want to do it without them. And they just want to understand how it can be accessible for them. So, okay, we're going to help you make this accessible for you. This is something that impacts your stability and your ability to achieve your goals, right? So you have to be curious and care about the community you're embedded in every way. And when you do that, if you lead with that curiosity and care, there's going to be very few times that someone is not going to be like, they get me. I'm comfortable going to them anytime I have something going on. I rely on them. I depend on them. And we couldn't see our operation without RAT, which is what most companies say. And it's entirely because of that curiosity and care that we bring to what we do. And again, the model of our care is steeped in a real understanding of these communities and a real proactive approach. So it's a huge difference. I can imagine being any other kind of healthcare provider, honestly.
Right there with you. There's no way, but I love I mean, I want to drop Mike right there. That was just phenomenal. So many things you said. And some people don't realize, some of our profession is going to sit there, well, but we do the same thing. That's true. I mean, if you think about it, and I pick on the high school setting because secondary schools, that's where I've been for years. I mean, you have to be curious. I love that quote, curious and care. You have
Yeah.
to be, because in my setting, yes, my demographic is 13, 14-year old till 18, 19-year old roughly, but they got so much going on, just like the worker.
And
So
every day is
much
the end of the
going
world
on.
for them.
Yeah. Oh my God. Everything is do or die. It's like, son, trust me. And remember, people, I work in an all boys school. That's why I always say the boys are son. And dude, yeah, okay, you got a D. It's okay. You're gonna live. Mom and dad won't kill you. You might lose your iPad for the weekend, but you're not gonna die. And like you said, it's getting involved once they know that you care. And
Mhm.
I have yet to meet an athletic trainer worth a damn that doesn't, at their core, care about their patient. And
Mhm.
that's one thing I love about our profession is when it gets right to it, we all do care. Otherwise, we're out. That's it. We can't handle what we do. Um, good friend of mine who is now in the industrial setting, he realized he was hitting that point at the college
Mhm.
level. And it was just, he was hitting burnout. He was getting to the point he wasn't caring, and he shifted. And oh my God, he's like a new man. Absolutely loves the industrial setting. He's been doing it, I think, for about a year and a half, 2 years now. And
Nice.
it revitalized his career. So it's wonderful to hear you affirm all
Mhm.
that community health care, um, because it's true. At the core, we care about our patients. We want to make sure they're better. And when you get to know them, they buy in.
Yes, yes. And even is kind of some of that burnout and stuff you were talking about. There's so much in this world. There's so much in society. There's so much in our work. And it seems like our jobs, I always say your role has a drift towards administrative BS. Okay. And if you let it take over, you are gonna find yourself hating this job within 6 months if it goes too far. And so, one thing I would always do, especially as I kind of became more administrative in my role, is oh my goodness, I am a fan of the dumb conversation, which is part of that curiosity and care, right? If I'm just having a day where I'm like 45 minutes into emails after 2 hours of meetings, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go have a dumb conversation. I don't have any patients to see. I don't have anything going on, but I'm going to go out. I'm going to find some of my patient population and I'm going to see what they're up to. And I will lace up my work boots, throw on my PPE, and I'll go out there on site and I'll just walk around and catch one of the guys. And the conversation is insane, but I'm having it because one, it gives them that I'm so interested, and I don't even need to know if you like did the rehab that you definitely didn't do that I gave you 2 weeks ago, right? I just want to see what's up. And I remember with one of my concrete teams, they were rolling up. So when you have concrete and it's really, really cold, you put what these things called concrete blankets on them. Yes, you make it nice and snug, but you put all these blankets out to essentially keep the concrete from getting too cold too fast. So I knew one of the levels of the building had all these concrete blankets everywhere, and then they have to come out and fold all these concrete blankets up and like clear the space. So I went out there and I just folded concrete blankets with them for like 25 minutes, and you
They
just
must
talk.
have loved that. They must have
Oh
loved
yes,
that.
and we talked about food. They talked about travel, going to see their family back in Mexico, like this and that. And we were just chatting it up until they cleared the floor. And I was like, all right, I'll see you guys later. They're never going to have a problem coming to me if they have something going on. And for me, it gets me out of that like cynical mindset of like, oh, is this my entire job? No, I went back to my office and I was like, oh, I feel great. And so that is really part of that is definitely the burnout is hard to avoid. But if I really feel myself having a weird day, be curious and just go find someone and learn something new about them or be helpful in some way. And it's definitely a good fix for those days.
I love that. That's fantastic. Concrete blankets. I love it.
Yes,
Tucked in, nice and warm.
nice and warm.
That's an image. That's an image I'll never forget now. Oh, that's hilarious. I've done some concrete in my day and I've never come across a blanket myself, but mine are always small little
Yeah.
pads, so no big deal.
Yeah, these were like huge. I mean, we're talking pouring, a whole level of a hospital, so you don't
Well,
want that to not cure right
no,
because
you want that right
expensive.
for all those people that are going to be coming through later in those years. So yeah, totally,
Mhm.
totally.
Elevate your knowledge, ignite your curiosity, and compete with the best minds at events hosted by the American Academic Competition Institute. AACI's sports medicine competitions feature practical exercises, challenging quizzes, specialty tests, and keynote speakers that foster knowledge and social engagement in healthcare and sports medicine. Go to aacitest.org for more information on upcoming regional and national competitions. Sign up for the ultimate intellectual showdown.
We haven't even asked, how many years have you been in the industrial setting?
Ooh, 9? 9. I think I'm still a YP according to the NATA.
Well, mentally I am too, but that's a different story. That's according to my wife, my colleagues, the people at
I'm like, I
work.
think you looked it up and you're like a YP until you're like 12 years in. I'm like, 12 years? I'm gonna feel like a grandma by then.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know what a YP is, it's a young professional. Now,
Oh,
mentally, I might be a young professional. I still think I'm 22, and yeah, I'm
there
nowhere
we
near
go.
that. That's a different story. But yeah, to me, young professional, I would think that's 3 to 5 years in the profession. After that, you're kind of working it. You kind of know what to do at that point. You're a baby. You're still working it. You're still figuring it out. Looking at the time frame right now, I always mention this to some of my guests. When we get going, I lose track of time. I'm looking here. We're already over 50% into our podcast today. And I've only really asked one question from my list, which is awesome. That means we're having fun, getting to know the industry,
Yes.
and it's always better when I don't talk. That at least that's what my producer says. I wonder why he says that. Could be the relation, younger brothers. They always say stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you know.
I
But
do. I have 3 brothers, so
oh, good luck with that. Oof. So you've been in the industry 9 years. I'm sure you've seen just a huge change. I mean, this has probably got to be the fastest growing sector
yes.
for our profession. And with that, what are some of the big changes you've seen in the industrial setting over the last 9 years?
Ooh, okay. This is such a good question. You would think I would need more than 9 years to be able to describe changes, but like you said, it's been growing so rapidly. I definitely do not. Obviously, one of the biggest changes over the last 5 years is gonna be that we have a society. Ayo! So, of course, industrial ATs have a place where they are represented and can build community and professionally network and learn a lot of AT skills. And that is just brand new. And it's been so well received. We just had our big kind of virtual summit we do, which all ATs are able to attend, but of course it's directed specifically at industrial. And it was so great seeing, we were getting emails, of like, I've been in the industrial setting for 2 years, and this has been the best resource for me. You guys crush it every year. So grateful. And it's nice to be able to see that industrials getting resources. That is the biggest change that has happened over the past decade. Is just the quality of education and that we're actually able to impact this practice directly. Um, Another place is definitely going to just be the growth of industrial athletic training companies. I mean, they have been growing rapidly. I feel like there's a new one every couple months. I'm like, wait, who do you
Who is this? And well, wait, where are you? What are you doing? Who you sign?
right?
Yep. I've
And so I
noticed that in the 2 years of this podcast. I mean, it's like, wait, who are you? Where'd you come from?
yes, yeah. So that has been very cool and very interesting to see. And then along with that, you also see a lot of your traditional sports medicine AT companies trying to get into industrial. So there have been a lot of those conversations. And then most recently, I would say probably over the past 3 years or so, a big thing as well I'm seeing is a lot of our allied healthcare provider companies are bringing in ATs, and it's very interesting. So you have a couple of wellness companies that, of course, facing some lost market share, have now added ATs to their program. You have Amphibious Medics, the largest EMT service provider in the US, has rolled out an industrial AT service line.
Really?
Oh,
Interesting.
they were getting
Interesting.
crushed in construction. Yeah, they had to do it, because a lot of construction companies were just like, "Do you have an AT? Because we want an AT on our project now." And so, yeah, they rolled that out last year. You have quite a couple of other big, larger health providers that really only use, PAs, NPs, physicians, and occupational health nurses. Also adding ATs. I've even had some providers reach out to me and say, "Hey, can we discuss how we can add ATs to our service?" Because we've had those requests or we're seeing the growth. So that is definitely the biggest change. I mean, the past few years, it's a bit of a whirlwind. How much the market has grown, which market feels like such an ick word when talking about healthcare, like market share. But that is, the term they use. But it's been nice to see a lot of that from my perspective of just new companies popping up and also getting outreach from companies who are like, "Hey, we want to use an AT," and having those conversations with them. So yeah.
The interesting thing going off that is right now they're projecting a 13 to 23% growth in our field
Mhm.
just in the industrial setting in the next 10 years, which healthcare is healthcare. It doesn't matter which aspect you get into. There is a
Mhm.
huge need, but growth, that's amazing because so many other healthcare industries, it's just people are tapping out, people are terming out, so to speak, retirement,
Mhm.
and just not going, no one's news going into the industry, whereas we are projected to increase growth. Um,
Which
what a time to get into the profession
Mhm.
with so many different opportunities. I mean, like you said, again, I'm old. So when I came out, it was you were working at a high school, you were working at a college, you were working at a professional sports team, franchise, whatever industry, and or maybe you worked in a clinic. Maybe. And now, geez, I mean, we've got industrial, we've got
Armed
um,
forces.
military, performing arts, all the different
Whatever you want to
aspects.
be.
Yeah, and you can create something yourself.
Mhm.
I mean,
I'm
you.
sure there are frontiers we have not even discovered yet.
Oh yes. Well, you mentioned that, and let's say, hey, we got guys and gals working at NASA, New Frontiers. There
Mhm.
we go.
Yeah,
So anything's really, really possible,
yeah,
depending on what part of the healthcare plan you like to specialize in.
definitely. And it's really interesting as you say that the word growth, right? I think sometimes when we talk about growing AT, and you see this a lot when it comes to expanding our practice acts or being able to collaborate more with other healthcare providers and the growth of sectors like industrial. And I think sometimes we hear that and think it means we are competing with our fellow healthcare providers or taking jobs or things like that. We're not. A lot of this is new growth, meaning these are not like jobs being taken over. Yes, there are times where people are just like, "Oh, we want to swap this service out." But actually, the majority of the growth have experienced in being at facilities that grew, or being, working with a client group or region that grew, was strictly new. It was people who had nothing and now they want an athletic trainer, or they had an athletic trainer too and now they want a third one, right? Very minimal of it has been replacing other healthcare providers. So when we talk about this growth, there are so many companies out there that do not have an AT, do not have anyone at all, are not aware that having an AT is something that could be beneficial for them. And there are so many ATs I hear about who are like, I'm the first AT at this company. And, do you have advice on what I should do? And I'm like, man, they're in for a ride. And by the time you're done with them,
Amen.
they're going to be like, how did we live without? That's the biggest feedback I hear from employers who never had an AT, is they're like, we don't know how we operated before they got here. And now that they're here, we can imagine operating without them. And it's wonderful.
Completely, totally. And that's a big nod to who you are as an athletic trainer, who you are as a healthcare professional. But that's a big nod to all those professors that taught you and prepped you and got you ready to enter the field of healthcare of athletic training, because they helped you get to the point where people want you. And that's phenomenal. One of the things we have, I was the first full time athletic trainer at the high school I work at now, and I've been there 27 years. And the quote unquote coach that was the athletic trainer prior, he basically did taping. Somehow he got his hands on an ultrasound system. He's
Oh my.
Yeah, no, kind of scary there. Great guy, love him to death. T, if you're listening, which I know you're not. We've worked together for 27 years now, and he's fantastic. But he looks at me all the time and says, when we didn't have an athletic trainer, nobody was hurt. Now we can't get him out of your room. What's going on here? It's like, no, Terry, they were always injured. They just didn't know what to do or how to care for themselves. So at this point, we're able to get you back in the game. We're able to get you back out on the court. We're able to expedite the situation. They were playing with injuries and getting worse. But now, in the industrial setting, we're getting them back to work faster. We're getting them back to work safer. We're ergonomically changing things to reduce the chance of injury. We're doing things to make the industry better. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat.
Definitely. And like you said, they've been hurt. That's one of the things a lot of companies say when they get an AT, right? Is they're like, where are all these injuries coming from? It's like they think we're making them up or something. And we're like, no, these are the injuries that have been here. You just typically didn't hear about them until this person couldn't even work anymore. Now they're this really costly claim that you have to deal with. And so one of the biggest things we say is the volume will go up. You're going to notice more injuries, more claims. But really, overall, the costs go significantly down. And that's us encouraging people, tell me about things early. Tell me about what you did. And another big thing that really the employers don't see a lot of it, but especially in a field like construction, we get to look at a lot of the injuries these guys get even off the job, which is really nice about construction, because most of your injuries in construction, sometimes this person's just been hurt. So in states where, our scope supports it, we've been able to just help with MSK injuries that affect their ability to do work. And there's nothing like having a concrete worker come into your office in the morning and be like, my back hurts. Just lay them down, because they had to have barely been able to walk in there to tell you, because these guys don't tell anybody they're
They
hurting.
don't tell nobody nothing. Nope, nope.
Never. So there's certain people, especially concrete, if they come to you and say this hurts, it's probably broken. I remember one time I was driving around on one of our sites and I get a call from safety and they're like, hey, we have a guy in here who smashed his hand, which I'm like, okay, the electrician like smashed his finger. I'm like, okay, well, I'm, checking on water and electrolytes, I'll be up there in 20 minutes. And they said, it's one of the concrete workers. threw that thing in reverse. I was like, I'm on my way. And
Be
sure
right
enough,
back. Here we go. Yeah.
and I took a look at his hand and I was like, yeah, that's smashed to bits. Mind you, it was like an excavator that did it. It wasn't like a hammer, like an excavator thing like hit his hand. But
Yikes.
and so I looked and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put the SAM splint on him. And we're sending him to get an x-ray and open fracture. But I mean, that is you learn these things about your people. You know that when they come to you and say this hurts, you're like, sit down because it's gonna be big. But yeah, the volume will seem to go up, but it's just because, like you said, they trust me and they know I can bring them a solution. No one's gonna come to your clinic if they don't think it's gonna help, right? They'll just sit out there and deal with their messed up ankle on their own and move on. But they're coming to you because they're like, this hurts me and I know you can fix it, and so that's why I'm here. And that's why we get a bit more volume maybe than people are used to.
They trust you, they believe in you, and they know you're going to make a difference. And that happens all so often, which is it really speaks again to our profession, our knowledge base, and then each individual as a clinician. Because
Mhm.
once your team, your staff, no matter whether it's athletics or an industrial setting,
Right.
gets to that point, yeah, you're going to see a higher volume. But those major insurance claims, even at the high school setting, I had an argument with an insurance company for our school. I think it was about 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Well, and claims have gone up. I said, yeah, but look at the cost.
Mm.
Like, well, what do you mean? I said, anything big? When was the last time we had a major?
Right.
Well, you can prove your value right there.
Definitely.
And data proves it. Oh my God. Data, 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 data. Put that to Batman music. Data, data, data. Anyway, um, it proves who we are, it proves what we do, and it really speaks volumes for our profession and our knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Big agree.
With that in mind, we're coming down to the wire now. We're almost at an hour. It just
Not the
flies by.
wire.
Yeah, this is fun. It's always fun when they go this fast. It means it's a good episode. So I'm going to look at you and ask just two more questions, and you can
Sure.
answer them as you want. Um, if you're talking to a newbie, or let's say you go back in time and you find yourself and you say, Susan, if I could give you a piece of advice for the future, looking forward 10 years from now, here's something I want you to focus on. What's something you would focus on as advice to Susan of 10 years ago? Ooh, I've stumped her. This is awesome. Never happens.
Well, the first thing that came to mind was when you get offered the chance to get your Lean Six Sigma green belt by the tire manufacturing plant you're working at, don't say no.
Now, first off, not everybody knows what Six Sigma is. So if you want to explain that real quick, that's a bitchin' opportunity.
It was. And I was too busy. I was like, oh, no, not right now. I have this ergonomics project I'm doing in radial tire belt.
Oh,
For real. So Lean Six Sigma, for any who don't know, and it covers, most industries, but it's basically a process methodology
hmm.
to continuous improvement. You see it in manufacturing, healthcare, your high resilience orgs, right? Aeronautics, a lot of these areas usually use this Lean Six Sigma approach to work. And it really is focused on seeing work as it's done versus work as planned and eliminating waste so that you have a beautiful, seamless, process to getting work done. It is very
Utopia. Da, 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 da.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Always improving, always getting better. It's very cool. I mean, anyone who works in manufacturing is probably very familiar with it because most plants have. I mean, we had like four master black belts, eight black belts, 20 something green belts because they actually would they ran a program there, and every 2 years they would pick up a new, or every twice a year they would pick up a new class. And, one of our operations plant managers like, hey, we're doing another greenbelt class. Would you like to join? And I was like, no, not really.
Oh,
I do regret it now. I'm
all
gonna
right.
have to
Keep
get
that in
mine
mind, everybody.
eventually.
Keep that in, and that's fantastic. Fantastic advice.
Yeah, so I would say saying yes to opportunities for learning is really a big focus. Knowledge is everything. And I think sometimes maybe our profession may seem, not anti-growth, that's a weird way to say it, but seem like it's cumbersome to learn more or to incorporate different skills, right? We hear thoughts about our continuing ed requirements and thoughts about, whether we're masters or bachelors and all these things. Knowledge and learning is so critical. It is something people cannot take from you. Now, don't waste your funds, just doing whatever, be intentional about it, but really always embrace knowledge every time it comes up. I'm taking a hazmat response planning course in Dallas the week after
Ooh,
next.
that
It's
sounds like
3 days
fun.
long. I'm going to be at like a Holiday Inn near DFW Airport taking this hazmat response plan. And it was because one of the safety orgs were offering it for free, a learning opportunity. And who knows when I may need that knowledge and experience. And it's a very intensive course. And I said, absolutely, yes, I'm in. And so that's going to be really fun, but really finding opportunities to learn and embracing the learning process and not seeing it as something to do as quickly as possible or even to skip. I think we see a lot of that. That's something I think anyone would regret when they get older.
And then I think I didn't ask the second question, but you really spun it into your answer. So I'm going to bring it up and let you elaborate a little bit. Putting yourself out there. Really. I mean, that's what you were talking about. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to try a class that at the moment doesn't make sense, but maybe in the future would. So if I heard right, and please elaborate a little bit, not being afraid, put yourself out there a little bit, right?
I think to elaborate on the background I already gave and how that loops into putting yourself out there. There are a lot of people who talk about success and how success comes around and what are the things you can do to be successful, whether it's in life, work, whatever. But I think the biggest thing you're going to find, at least from the people I respect who talk on the matter, is success is luck. Success is a lot of luck. The difference between the person who gets the dream job and the person who works just as hard forever and is stuck where they're at, I mean, a lot of times that can come down to luck. But one of the big things that people talk about is increasing your chances of being lucky. And one of the ways you do that is by putting yourself out there. So, how do you increase your chances of being lucky? Have the knowledge, have the skills, have the education. Put yourself in more places, give yourself more opportunities to encounter that luck that might get you that perfect, dreamy thing that is exactly what you wanted. Unfortunately, a lot of our stuff we can't just will into existence. Some things we can, but really, when it comes down to things that are not fully in our control, we need to put ourselves, in as many places as we can, give ourselves as many chances as we can to be lucky. And that speaks directly to putting yourself out there. Putting yourself out there, picking up that knowledge. Who knows if I took that course? Maybe I would have had skills that could have gotten me another role that I had wanted, but I didn't because I turned it down and so on. And there are a lot of things I've learned that have gotten me opportunities. Some of my research that I've done in construction has gotten me incredible opportunities and actually is getting me an opportunity right now with a group that wants to really push and leverage and move the needle, push the envelope, whatever term you like, in construction research and how we see how heat affects workers. And I spent the last couple of
Huge topic
years,
right now. That's a
yeah,
huge topic. Oh my God, yes.
and I spent a couple years doing exactly that, researching exactly that. We actually are working on a study right now, which is going to be the first study in North America that observes workers for 5 continuous days, which doesn't sound very long, but that's very difficult to manage outside of the military, especially when you're getting blood samples and urine samples and all of this. So it's going to be the first of its kind, and we're hoping to use that to leverage some grants. And that's just by saying yes to things and, putting myself out there. You'll really be surprised. So take the leap, any chance, anytime you get.
Take the leap. I love that. That's so true, though. That's how you get to places you never imagined.
Definitely. Definitely. And I don't know. I mean, well, I think more people are just in control of their lives than I am of mine because sometimes people ask me, like, how did you get here? And I'm like, I have no idea.
It just kind of
Okay.
happened. Yep.
I have no clue.
I know
Oh,
that feeling all too well. I often would look at my boss that hired me 27 years ago and ask him, what the heck were you thinking? And his actual response the last 10 years was, I don't know. I question that all the time, Eli. So I get
question
it.
it every day.
Yep. I question it every day. So, well, Susan, it's been an hour. I know we've got things to do, places to go, people to take care of, and I don't want to take too much of your time because it's valuable to your patients and the profession. So, wanted to thank you for being on our podcast today and educating all those that listen. Fantastic episode. I love this. We're going to have you back. We didn't even really talk much about the Industrial Athletic Training Society. So we'll have to come back and just talk about
Let's
that.
pick them up. Yeah, because we're
That's a
going to
whole nother
run.
episode, I think.
I think so.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, thank you for being on Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. Enjoy family, friends, and everything you get to do. And good luck today at work.
Same to you. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too. Have a good one. Bye bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Want to make sure you hear every episode? Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to share our podcast with your colleagues, family, and friends. Your support will help more people find and enjoy our content. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is directed by Eli Hallett. It is produced by Gabriel Hallett. Our theme music is by Coma Studios via Pixabay. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the contributors. Want to know more about us? Visit us at wrapituppodcast.com. That's with one P, wrapituppodcast.com. Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More is a production of Hallett Consulting, LLC.